I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is the Wednesday, July 23rd, 2014 meeting of the Lowell Conservation Commission. And kindly remind everyone, if you have any electronic device, kindly turn it off or silence it. Moving on to the first item on the agenda is a new filing, Notice of Intent, William Susi, concerning DEP file number 2060732. The project location is 346 Western Ave, and it's construction of a 5,318 square foot industrial building and parking lot on an existing lot within the bordering land subject to flooding and within a riverfront area at 346 Western Avenue. Mr. Hammer, if I could have you identify yourself for the record.
Yes, for the record, my name is Matt Hammer at 11 Kearney Square. Representing, as you said, Mr. Will Susi. I'm going to go through the existing conditions plan. I'll go through the proposed development plan, and then I'll address the comments that were provided by the city planner and the city engineer. This property is here, which is known as 346 Western Ave. School Street's here, and this is Western Ave, and this is the Pawtucket Canal here. Right now, I don't know if folks went by the site, but there's a low-growth brush along the, inside of a stone retaining wall that holds up the sidewalk and roadway to Western Ave. There's an existing sidewalk that's in good condition up to here, and then it's overgrown with a fence along here. This area down here is just overgrown grass, gravel area. The owner's been cleaning it up and getting vagrants who have been on the site from time and time again, and trying to keep this site secured from having individuals. They set up tents on occasion, and this is a place where people tend to hang out in the evening. There's an overpass here, and they come through this side here, and they congregate in this area here. There's a low growth brush here of trees and brush, and then there's also even trees growing out of the canal wall that actually come up that you'll see as well. And like I said, this is the canal here. The resource area that has triggered the filing is the bordering land subject to flooding, which is shown in orange here, and Ms. Timon recommended that we clearly identify this area on a plan, and also I'll show you on the development plan where that bordering land subject to flooding would be extended to by elevation. I'd also like to note that we've carried the elevation of where the Pawtucket Canal begins from the Merrimack River. So the bordering land subject to flooding elevation has been held conservative from the Merrimack River. We think that there's a 0.5% slope from the Merrimack down to this point, but the elevation identified is actually at the Merrimack River, and that elevation is 43.6. So the proposed development is a proposed industrial building which is located here. I also have a rendering here which I can show you, and then I can go over the grading plan. But essentially we have an access drive here coming in off of Western Ave, sloping down in this direction, down into the site. There's approximately a 12-foot elevation from the Western Ave section to the lower grade down here. It varies along here. I should add that this site at one time was a temporary storage area for trains. If you look at the old historical mapping, there were train tracks that came through here and went down to the depot, which is down towards Thorndike Street. And then there were train spurs that came out here, track spurs, and trains would actually just stage here historically on this property. But back to the site, we come down a drive here. There's going to be contractor bays coming in the back side of here, with each having their own individual overhead door. I have elevations to show you if needed also. And then there'd be a mezzanine section up on the, what would be the ground floor coming off of Western Ave. And each mezzanine section would be accessed by a sidewalk coming into each section here. This gray area here is the extent of the parking area. We have a proposed dumpster location here, sidewalk coming down from a stairway to access the parking and the dumpster locations. And there would be snow storage here. This would remain vegetated. This would be vegetated and landscaped. The site development plan, I know it's a little busy, but what we do have here is grading coming down. The grading on the extent of the parking areas is actually sloped away from the canal into the site, so that the grading goes in this direction on this side, and then the grading goes in this direction and is captured with a porous pavement strip here, and then goes down to a stone collection basin beneath the porous strip. And there's a full detail which shows the extent of the basin itself, and is shown here as a dashed line here. There's a slight swale here on the shoulder of the entrance, which comes down to a 2 foot wide by 2 foot deep level spreading infiltration trench, which is also connected to the stone basin beneath the porous pavement strip, so that that it has a place to go. And if in fact the basin was to surcharge for whatever reason, it could actually make its way out and come out. But we've designed it such that it should not surcharge off the site. If in fact there was a 100-year storm event, I've shown in orange approximately where the extent of the bordering land subject to flooding would extend to by elevation, which is in orange here. And then if in fact that did occur, we left an opening in the curbing here so that it would have a way to get out of the parking area, so that it wouldn't be restricted in any way. We're showing a straw wattle here around the site to capture any runoff during construction. We have a proposed construction entrance here and spot grading that grades the site out here for the drainage. And as I said, there would be a concrete pad here for a dumpster location. Snow storage areas along the sides here and along the side here, not along here at all. There's going to be a new fence that goes up here. I have details of it. It's something that we're working with the Historic Commission on. And it's going to be a fence that is consistent with some of the other fencing you see along the canal as well. I have I'll just show you an elevation of the building itself. This is the rear of the building here, contractor bays. This is the mezzanine section along Western Ave. And then this is a right side elevation that was done by the architect primarily when we were going through the Historic Commission, the Historic Board, to show the relationship of Western Ave, the building, the parking area, the wall to the canal, the wall on the other side, and also the river walk on the other side of the canal. I have copies of these plans. It wasn't included in our original packet. These were just done a couple weeks ago. If you want to see those plans, I have copies for everybody. We received the comments from Ms. Judy Timon. All of her comments we concur with. A lot of them we've gone through with the planning board stage, the historic board stage. I don't think most of these could be included, if not all of them, in an order of condition if needed. Nothing in these comments to me specifically pertain to the first section to the notice, but the second section where under stormwater, there is a comment here which says that we're not a higher pollutant that we put on our form that we're not a high pollutant, potential pollutant load on our form. It was also noted by the city engineer, and I made a copy of the section in the stormwater handbook, which talks about potential pollutant loads. Even though we are in an industrial district and we're allowed to have uses in the industrial district in each of these individual contractor bays, just want to note that everything inside that will occur on this site will be inside the building. There's going to be no outside storage of any kind on this property at all. And if you go through this list, which they would consider higher pollutant loads, I don't believe that our proposed intention for this use would qualify as being a higher pollutant load. I just gave you a copy of the stormwater management handbook so you could review that as well. We'll make sure that we address each and every comment in a set of, revised documents. We'll take the comments from the board as well, and we'll just submit that as one package, incorporating all of our comments. We don't have any issue with any of her comments in her letter. We also received comments from the city engineer, all of which we concur with except for the higher pollutant load comment. I think some of the comments that she made are included in our stormwater.
Let me just hold you up there, Matt. We haven't seen those at all, so.
Yes, I realize that.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions, because
I had a feeling you.
Yeah.
I only brought one copy with me. I can pass that around. My thought is that because we haven't received comments yet from the DEP, we wouldn't be able to close the meeting anyways. I can sit down with Lisa and go over each and every comment with her, but we don't feel as though any of her comments are going to affect the overall design. She just wanted more clarification. Just about all of the comments that she had, we actually had within the documents we submitted. We just have to pull them out of the stormwater management report and just show her where those documents are.
Well, while we're on that, could I just ask a quick question? When I was looking at the stormwater report, you have in here that the porous concrete, I guess, achieves an 80% total suspended solids removal, and I'm just trying to get a sense of, is that a spec in the concrete itself? I couldn't find how you came up with that. It's just a statement. I wasn't sure if any of the supporting material demonstrated that concrete achieves that removal efficiency. It's under standard 4 in the stormwater report. And it does look like you have a spec sheet as an attachment, but it's kind of faint, so I couldn't tell.
Yeah, we just, if you go to the stormwater management, it's our understanding that with the porous concrete, with the layers that are incorporated with the gravel layers, that you do attain that 80% TSS removal.
All right, so that's a design spec?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna pass around the city engineer's comments. I was kind of chuckling when I read her first comment on the stormwater section, because I'm gonna spend a few minutes on the exact same thing, because I picked up on it too. Your stormwater submittal, subsection A1B, says that this is a redevelopment project, and I was kind of curious as to how you arrived at that, but then, according to Mr. Gill's stormwater report letter that he submitted under section 4.7 indicates, and under standard 7 indicates it's not a redevelopment project. So
That was an error on our part.
your filing indicates that it is, but your supporting documentation says that it isn't. So that needs to be corrected
It does.
one way or another. I mean, I don't see how this is a redevelopment project,
It's
but.
not.
Okay, so that definitely needs to be corrected, because it's inconsistent. Also, on standard 7, no, I'm sorry, on standard 2, which deals with pre and post water recharge and discharge on the site, you're meeting the 2- and 10-year storm events. However, your calculations also indicate that you meet the 100-year storm event, but you're not indicating that on your filing. Is there a reason for omitting that, or am I reading that wrong? Your calculations indicate a 0.78 cubic feet per second
correct.
post-development
Yep.
reduction, but your filing indicates that you're not meeting that standard. So I'm kind of curious as to why.
Make that correction.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. All right, your nice colored map up there, you're sort of roughly showing us where you're providing additional flood storage, but we'd like to see the calculations too.
Sure.
I couldn't find those. If those are in there, I'd like to see them, or at least be pointed out to where they are. But for posterity's sake, the commission likes to know exactly. I know you have a note in there, but we actually like to see the calculation.
Sure.
Is there any chance of including some additional flood storage in your grassed area that's to the west of the site, you know, where Cayenne Avenue comes in? I'm assuming at some point in time the School Street Bridge there was lowered, because it boggles my mind that rail stubs could get under School Street at that particular location. You have to duck to get under it yourself. So walking wise, it's only about 4 or 5 feet high. So
Underneath here?
yeah.
No, you can drive right under.
Yeah, have you been under there recently? I've been under there in the last year.
Okay.
So
All right.
it's not easy.
I just know if you look at the old historic atlases.
All right,
they show 'em right on there.
the School Street must have been reconfigured at some point in time then.
Yeah.
Be a steel railroad bridge.
Yeah, all right. Also, yeah, I likewise with our own office's comments, the commission generally does add a condition that this is subject to the city engineer's approval for stormwater purposes, so, you know, we typically do that. Now, you had mentioned a fence along the canal bank or wall, subject to obviously historic board approval. Now, I'm assuming and perhaps I'm assuming too much, that it's probably going to be some granite post split rail type fence, because that's what they've done in the past. I don't know if it's going to be something more in line with an industrial chain link and screened type thing. But since that is going to be placed in the floodplain, and you may want to set, you don't have to give us an exact amount of fill that those posts are going to be taken up in that flood area, but you may want to establish a maximum that they cannot fill more than this, and that gets cut out of your increased flood storage calculation as
so
allotment for the fence posts.
Right, so there won't be a stone post.
Okay.
There's actually steel rail posts embedded into the entire wall. We're going to repurpose that existing post, put a steel sleeve on top of it, and then the entire fencing will be affixed to that.
That fence isn't up there now, though, is it?
There's a fence there now, yeah.
I mean, it's kind of, I was
No, I'm
out
not
there
gonna-
last year, last
If you want to call it a
fall,
fence,
it was
yeah.
kind of dilapidated.
It is dilapidated. And,
I mean, you could easily fall into the canal without trying, so.
you know, something we should also discuss, and, you know, you have all this vegetation growing out of the wall. And I don't know how the commission would want to add input as to maybe cleaning that up a little bit and cutting down some of those trees actually on the wall without going into the canal, obviously, with the implications of getting in the canal.
We worked with Mr. Susi. I believe he was the owner last year when we were dealing with cleaning up that particular area.
Right.
And I appreciate his efforts and his cooperation with the city to do that. What I believe at that point in time during one of the site visits that I made out, I had made a suggestion that be looked into. So it's certainly not something, at least for me personally, that I would be against. Looking into, you know, you're going to have heavy equipment in there, and that would be the time to remove those and stabilize, if need be, you know, that retaining wall over the canal. Because certainly those, you know, over time, we all know that the root systems and whatnot can compromise, you know, even the largest granite blocks, so.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so that's something, you know, we might need to address during the construction phase, maybe have a site visit with, you know, Ms. Timon and someone else from the city and review how we would want to address. There's too much vegetation to really go through each and every vegetative material coming out of the wall, but we know that we would want to clean that up.
Lastly, with respect to the high pollutants use standard under the stormwater management report and practices, we can issue a permanent condition for the site that there shall be no outside work. I note that the city engineer's comments are that, you know, the dumpster location and the fact that the dumpster is outside is a potential high pollutant activity. And you need to address that with her, because this project will have a condition, you know, subject to the city engineer's approval. So that will ultimately need to be addressed with the city engineer, so.
One thing I was thinking is that we could actually have the slab slope back away from the parking area, so that if there was some pollutant that, I don't know, let's say a guy throws a couple oil cans in there,
Right.
it could go back, and then we could put in like a lined infiltration trench there that could potentially, you know, serve as a mitigation to any potentially.
Well, as is often the case, and I don't want to speak to the future, but given the industrial nature of the site, as you know, it's a heavily industrial zone as it is now, and it's, you know, there's industrial activity taking place actively in the neighborhood. But given the nature of whomever the tenants will be in the future, you know, it's a foreseeable consequence that they're going to be working on vehicles, maintaining equipment on the site. And I, for one, given the very close proximity to the resource here, would be requesting a permanent condition that activity is done solely within the confines of, you know, of the structure itself, and not to take place outside in the parking areas, because that adds to the risk, and it negates it negates the management practices and the O&M that's required to be maintained for this site. So,
Yeah, these will be condominiums, so we can most certainly incorporate that verbiage into the condominium master deed. And the other thing about this design is, let's say there was some sort of occurrence or something, at least it would be captured by this stormcrete pervious strip here. So there is a you know, a device that could actually capture it before it actually got to the got to the canal.
now, other than that pervious strip, is there going to be any catch basins on the site? No? Okay.
And
One
this is pitched away from the canal back towards that strip as well.
All right,
Excuse me.
okay. One last comment, and it has nothing to do with the Conservation Commission, but you showed us the front from the street, from Western Ave, of the mezzanine level.
Yep.
I would suggest that the architect go out there and look at the site, because the middle graphic is backwards. School Street runs from the high side on the right to the low side on the left, so the stairways should be longer on the left than they would be on the right.
This stairway, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Our grading plan is correct. And if you look at our grading plan, this architectural detail primarily was to show the window sets and
Okay.
the accent strip on the
All
front.
right, okay.
It wasn't meant to
Because
show.
School Street, I mean, Western Ave's got a bit of a slope right there, so.
Yeah, so what it is, you know, there's a retaining wall that'll be placed here with some rail that the grade will be going, going against the grade going in this direction. And then in this direction, the sidewalk will be slightly above the interior sidewalk will be above the exterior sidewalk along Western Ave with its own guardrail.
So they're gonna change the elevation of the sidewalk?
No,
No?
we're not going to change the elevation of the sidewalk on Western Ave. Our sidewalk's going to be fully handicap accessible.
Okay.
Okay, so it's going to be higher than the sidewalk on this side and lower than the sidewalk on this side.
Is there, how much of a space is there going to be between the building and the retaining wall at Western Ave?
5 feet.
5 feet?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I don't have any further comments, Commissioner Varman.
Is the surface drainage off the site, is that all going to be infiltrated? Or is there an outfall into the canal?
No water's going to go into the canal
Oh, I thought you said it was,
unless there was a 100-year storm event.
oh,
And if there was, then the water would surcharge over the canal. It would breach the canal wall, and it would come into the site. Again, we're actually at a conservative elevation. We actually think that we're, a foot higher than the actual elevation set back at the Merrimack River, but the overlay mapping shows it on the site here. No elevation assigned to it, it's just an overlay. We left an opening right here in case that did happen. But no drainage is being directed towards the river at all.
now in your landscape plan, you show the area to the west, excuse me, completely cleared, whereas on the existing conditions, you show low shrubs or something
Yeah, we're
there.
just gonna just leave that area the way that it is. We're gonna be putting a chain link gate here to prevent people from coming in. But we're gonna just, this existing gravel area will be vegetated with some seed mix and just left alone. It's not gonna be mowed or anything like that.
So you're not going to have shrubs out in
No.
that area?
No, there was discussion about potentially putting trees along there, but that never progressed as a condition. I keep turning these around. There are some, now in the plan set, under the layout sheet, it shows some proposed trees that we'll be putting along here, along the side here.
Okay,
Commissioner Lynch?
You had mentioned a dumpster. Is that for construction, or is that going to be permanent once, or both?
That's going to be a permanent
Okay, so you're
dumpster,
going to be
yeah.
using it for construction debris, or?
No, that has nothing to do with the
Okay.
construction process. It's
Okay.
just for, when the facility has tenants in it, there'll be a screened-in dumpster area.
Okay. Now, do you anticipate having to clean up any of the abandoned railroad spurs, or?
Actually, when we conducted our test pitting on site, we were actually surprised that there were decent gravel materials down there. We went down 8 to 10 feet and did not find any railroad spurs or things that you would think that you would find here.
Right.
Like lots of bituminous debris and things of that nature. The soils were relatively good soils.
Nice. Now, how long do you anticipate the project taking?
I would say from start to finish, it'd be 12 months.
Thank you.
Before I pass on, actually, it's one thing I forgot to mention. I was a little surprised when you had just mentioned your test pits that you found groundwater at 4.5 feet.
Yeah,
Is that across the site?
it was fairly consistent.
Huh. Now, how will that impact your recharge
It doesn't,
and infiltrator?
no, we're above that.
Okay.
In respecting the
All right.
required offset to that.
All right, Commissioner Lovely? Commissioner Biedron? Okay. I'm going to open it up. We're still awaiting DEP comments on this. We do have a DEP file number, but this meeting will be continued awaiting the DEP comments, and I'd still like, if you could hammer out the details of the fence with the historic board
Yeah, we saw.
prior, because it's a detail that we need to see.
We know that the fence, the way that it's been submitted, generally isn't going to change in terms of the, in terms of it's going to be a sleeve over the existing posts that are there.
Yeah, but we're not seeing it at all on the plan.
Yeah, it's here, shown on the plan as the proposed fencing on those existing pins.
Okay, but but you're adding to it, so, and if the historic board makes a change to it, then, then you're gonna be coming back here, with those modifications, so.
Essentially, it's this fence here, except it's going to have a triangular top to the pickets.
So it's gonna be that
It's gonna be a
brown
picket
wooden
fence. Yeah,
picket type
it's
fence
not gonna be-
that we see all over the place in the city?
It's exactly
Okay.
what it's going to be.
Okay, all right. Is there anyone here who'd like to offer their comments or concerns, either for or against this project? Is there anyone here who'd like to offer their comments or concerns, either for or against? Is there anyone here who'd like to offer their comments or concerns, either for or against? Okay, this meeting will be continued, so that doesn't foreclose any future comments before the public hearing closes. What I'd like to do at this point, Judy, any other comments from the city? No? Okay. What I'd like to do at this point is entertain a motion to continue. Matt, when do you think you can have the changes?
Meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
So that is August 13th, I believe? Okay.
I'll
So-
make a motion to continue this to the August 13th meeting.
All right, thank you by Commissioner Biedron, seconded by Commissioner Varnum. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, thank you. All right, moving on to the second item on the agenda is continued from prior meetings, enforcement order regarding 51 and 57 Shirley Avenue, Paul Mercia, and its removal of trees within bordering land subject to flooding.
Good evening. My name's Maureen Hanley from Norris Environmental Services, here on behalf of the applicant, or Mr. Mercier. Wanted to update the commission on the status of this. So I went out to the site today, and there were 19 trees planted. The restoration plan for the site called for 20 trees. I spoke with Mr. Mercier, and he had informed me that John Hines Landscaping is the one that had put in the trees, and that he was going to get that one additional tree that was missing to put onto the site today. So that was the game plan as of 2:30 this afternoon. As far as I know, that additional tree has been planted. Mr. Hines has also been contracted by Mr. Mercier to water the trees. He also guaranteed Mr. Mercier a 1-year guarantee that the trees will survive. If for some event one of the trees dies, he will replace that tree. So he has a 1-year guarantee on these trees. And in addition to that, Mr. Mercier had contracted out the neighbor, James Lunderville, which, if you're looking at the lot, it's the house to the right, to also water the trees on the site as well. So I believe we're in compliance with the restoration plan and with the enforcement order that the commission has issued last year at this point in time.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission? Commissioner Varnum?
I believe you're right that there seemed to be an additional tree out there right in the middle, but they still haven't been watered, and they really look like they could use some water.
What I can tell you is what I've been told is that Jack has been contracted. It's in his best interest to water the trees. The neighbor's supposed to be watering the trees. I went out there today. I thought the trees looked really well, considering that they were just planted 2 months ago. I thought they were doing well considering the heat that we've had. So
I think some of them were planted more recently than that, actually. You did have an early planting. The oaks look good, but
you're probably right. I'm not exactly sure of the date, so.
yeah, there's been maybe 3 different episodes of planting, I believe.
Okay.
But you know, everything's dry right now, and it doesn't make any sense to just keep letting the tree, deteriorate and then plant a new one.
Absolutely. It's in our best interest to resolve this enforcement order. This is what we'd like to do with the commission and put this lot behind us. So that is our goal.
Ours too. Enough from the peanut gallery over there. Any other comments, Commissioner Lovely?
No,
Commissioner?
I went out this afternoon, and they looked as good as they could be for this time being, and I agree. I mean, if you got a contract in place, I mean, I think that was our major concern, that we didn't want to be having this back and forth between the trees being maintained or not, and it sounds like you have an arrangement now with both the nursery and the abutting neighbor, so I think that's about as good as it's going to get for this point in time. Thank you.
Commissioner Beardron? Commissioner Lynch? No. All right.
May I ask a request of the commission? I know that there was a substantial bond put in place for this purpose, for planting the trees and the survival. I don't know if the commission would consider releasing a portion of the bond, or if you were open to that for a consideration. The bond that was placed was $20,000.
Yeah, I have always indicated that I would entertain releasing a portion of it to pay for the actual work that was done to restore the site to its original conditions. What I would suggest, Ms. Hanley, is to prepare a proposal
Okay.
supported by invoices and supporting documentation. If you have a contract with Mr. Hines, it's, as he planted the trees, supplied the trees. I don't want to see an invoice from Mr. Mercier for work that he's performed on the site, but through only third parties.
Okay.
For materials provided to the site. And at that point in time, I'm sure the commission will consider releasing a portion. I certainly, for one, would not entertain releasing the entire bond until such time that we're assured it is typical and perhaps to the same standard as issuing a COC. Meaning one full growing season.
Right, and I believe that
established.
was what was in the original
Right,
restoration
and I
plan
believe that was,
presented to the
correct.
commission, so that I completely understand. Okay, I will get my ducks in a row.
Yeah, I don't want you to get in, to put you through this if that's going to be an issue with the board. But I, for one, would entertain that, so.
Okay,
I think, but maximum half. Again, and according to the invoices you submit, so we know how much it costs to redo if it has to be redone.
okay,
So those invoices will be important.
okay.
Anything further? All right. Do I have will you be before us on the August 13th?
I don't know.
Okay, we don't
Not
need
August.
to continue this because it's just an outstanding matter. When you feel that you're prepared to
Okay.
file a proposal, then just do it with the office and we'll put it on the agenda at
If
that
not
point in
August
time.
or September, so,
But to meet the filing deadlines and the notification deadlines, because I know there's perhaps parties in here that have been attending almost all of the meetings regarding this project, so.
okay.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Moving on to the third item on the agenda is an enforcement order. Frederick Lovejoy concerning a violation at location 1236 Pawtucket Boulevard. It's destruction of plant life on bordering land subject to flooding, bank, and riverfront area, in addition to dumping of tree debris in the Merrimack River. Tree clearing remnants were observed during a site inspection conducted on July 9th, 2014, and I believe there was other observed dates too. Is there anyone here? Yes, sir. You've kindly approached the podium and identify yourself for the record.
I'm Fred Lovejoy, 275 Neshotic Road, Concord, Massachusetts. Speaking for the three owners of our property, my wife, or the property, my wife, my son Charles Lovejoy, and his wife Amanda Connors Lovejoy.
All right, this commission issued an enforcement order, actually an amended enforcement order also, which we need to address tonight because it needs to be ratified. We've made some small changes to the original enforcement order. And I believe it's Dr. Lovejoy?
Yes, that's correct.
And I have to say that I know there's some people in attendance here tonight that I'm going to entertain them speaking tonight. And what I really want to impress upon you and your son, because I'm assuming that he's the one that had the work done, and is living on the site with his wife or partner, that what happened out there was incredibly irresponsible, dangerous, and caused significant damage, not only to the resource, but also to the city of Lowell. You know, I hate to make light of a serious situation, but it doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure out that dropping a several ton battering ram into a flowing river that's utilized by water sports enthusiasts and rowers and is upstream of probably the most significant historic dam in the United States is not going to cause some damage, and it did. And they did. What happened? Felling trees, one, in the resource area, even if you cleared them out, wouldn't have been okay. But they were felled in the river and left there. And they floated downstream, and they caused injury to, and I don't want to take anyone else's thunder, because we're going to hear from it tonight, to the Lowell Rowing Company's regatta fields. They had a incredibly significant regatta that was impacted because of this. Boats were damaged, equipment was damaged, people's lives could have been impacted, and luckily that didn't happen as far as we know. But I'm just, in this day and age, people have to be aware that you just can't hire your brother-in-law or something with a chainsaw to come out and cut down trees on the Merrimack River. You just can't do that. It has to be done responsibly. It has to be done under a permit. Now we're left with the situation where, what do we do? How do we rectify the situation? How do we, go back and replace it, as by my count, 3 or 4 significant caliper trees along the banks of the Merrimack River? I know you may not know this, but the prior owner to this house received a substantial and significant fine for doing the exact same thing about 5 or 6 years ago from the Department of Environmental Protection. And I'm not saying that's not a possibility here, but you may want to explore making good with the parties that were harmed post haste. Because, this commission can issue ongoing, ticketing until such time that the situation is rectified. And I, for one, don't really have the stomach to do that, but given the fact that there was some significant damage out there, I think you should explore those avenues, with the parties that were injured. I'm going to hear evidence tonight in support of the enforcement order. If you don't have anything further to say, I'm going to open it up right now for comments from the commission, but also from people in attendance.
No, sure. Well, thank you for that. And first of all, let us apologize for it having occurred. I'd have to say that I knew that they were going to be cutting down some trees. I knew that. And that's why I'm standing here today. I have to admit that I did not know the rule. I did not know about 25 feet. I did not know the issue of what you're allowed to do on that embankment or not, and I was totally in error on that, and I apologize for that, and I assume responsibility for that. There were 6 trees that were cut down. 4 of them were in the water. 2 of them were on the embankment. As I understand what happened, but I'm more than happy to look into and make right anything that needs to be made right in terms of anybody's damage. As I understand it, 4 trees that were in the water were cut down. They came down in the water, and I've been told that they were chopped up at that point, brought inland to the house right next door, and were disposed of there. 2 were on the embankment. One of them, the same thing was done. The last one is still in place there. So I know that one branch got away, was in the river, but I was told that they went out and rescued it, brought it back, and did the same. So I clearly need to look into it, because this is what you're telling me is a bit different. And I hasten to quickly say that we want to do everything possible to, 1, rectify that site exactly as the commission wishes. We've contracted with Marzelli Landscaper and Company, have worked for us for many years in Concord, who are absolutely superb, and they will, Amanda King will do exactly what you want and have that done. We will file all the necessary documents, and then finally, and then finally, I will absolutely look into exactly what happened here. The last thing to say is those tree stumps were left in place. So the stumps are in place, and one can see exactly how big they are.
All right, I just would like to clarify, I know that you had indicated 6 trees and they were all removed from the river, but the information given to the environmental officer that initially investigated this and comments from your son were different, that were reported to this commission, that several of the trunks were left in the river and were left afloat.
Okay, that's important for me to know. I did not know that.
So
That's important for me to know. Thank you.
all right. All right. Are there any? All right. And I know we have Deb Belanger from the CVB, and Deb Belanger had contacted me. And the concern here was that the city hosted a national level, or I should say the Lowell Regatta, Lowell Rowing Association hosted a national level regatta. And I'm gonna, Jay Feenan's here, so I'm gonna let him speak on that behalf. But I know that the city is very concerned about this because it reflected poorly
Yep. I fully
on
understand.
our great city.
Yep.
So
Fully understand.
if either Deb or Jay, if you'd like to speak, thank you.
My name's Jay Feenan. I have been part of this community, the rowing community, on this section of the Merrimack since 1986. I've probably spent more time on the river than anyone else in this room. I can tell you that for a fact. And I've rowed at every single level. What I like to do is I like to give back. And I'm in charge of 2 of the biggest regattas that are brought in here. There's approximately 8 regattas brought in annually. One of them's in the fall, first weekend, in this past spring. I'm also in charge of this national level regatta. What happened, and this is more of an awareness of what this is that it brings in a lot of money, especially these weekend regattas into this city. And what Deb Belanger did in particular is we went off and raised a lot of money 2 years ago, and we have a race course put in the water. You can't really see it other than the buoys, but there's 10 feet below that water level, there's some steel cables and a lot of, it might not sound like a lot of money to some arenas, but it was $28,000 of material is in that river. And I can assure you that that weekend there were more trees that came down the river. And what happened is that annually we have, I call it the purging. We have to deal with the erosion on the banks. We have to deal with some upstream cutting. And what normally happens is we get what we call the purging. When the water levels get up in the spring, everything comes downstream. As soon as that's done, and as soon as the dam is repaired, the splash boards are repaired, what we end up doing is that's when we put in the race course. We go through all the permitting, put that in. And what happened this time was, and the reason why we do that is because we can't take trees 20 inches in diameter with, 8-foot branches coming down, grabbing onto this race course, because it will tear it out. And that's exactly what it did. So the biggest concern, though, was that these trees got hung up on the race course in the first 1,000 meters, and we actually had to potentially cancel the entire weekend of racing. What we did was modify the racing so that we didn't use the lanes where we had these trees. And the people that were removing this the person that was removing it, one of the entities was actually the Chelmsford Police. They were in the police boat. So what ended up happening was the lines of communication were Jay feeding on email saying, what in the world's going on with getting these trees coming down, trying to find out where it was, but most of our resources were put for 2 days straight trying to get rid of these. One of the things that isn't mentioned, and it's one thing about the costs of repairing what broke and the lower units on motors that are still out of commission, but the big thing is the safety issues. When I run these regattas, I go off and get $5 million policies for liability, but I take it personally when someone's out there on a boat with a chainsaw trying to cut up a tree into smaller pieces because one of the largest boats that we actually have on the river can't move it off the course. So that's how big these trees were. Anyway, so it's really the safety concerns more than anything. If one of these rowing shells, if we allowed the regatta to happen where it would actually come in contact, if a rowing shell hit one of these, the crew would flip and then we end up with people in the water. We can't have it, especially in the conditions in the swift water conditions of that weekend, because we had rains the previous week. So you will get a bill from us, and we will pursue everything. And I wrote it up, and it's to us it's only $2,500, but that's all our inside. That's really $2,500 worth of material. It doesn't reflect if we actually went out and got contractors and stuff. So, anyways, I just want you to know the safety issues that were involved that weekend, and it really worried everyone. We have 100 volunteers trying to put on these regattas for the city to bring in business for the city. So, thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to address any of those comments, Dr. Lovejoy?
No, only to say we certainly will pay for whatever damage occur, and I'm deeply sorry that it did occur and did happen. I used to row myself.
All right, is there anyone else? Hey, certainly.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to state for the
Deb,
record.
if you could identify yourself for the
Oh,
record.
sure, I'm sorry. I'm Deb Belanger. I head up the Greater Merrimack Valley Convention and Visitors Bureau. I also live at 65 La Plume Avenue in Lowell, in the Pawtucketville section. Our river, the Merrimack River is one of the best natural resources that we have, and I was really taken aback when I heard of this happening during our national event, and I can't thank the environmental police for, being there to help us. But again, the regatta folks are a community that consistently give back, and the amount of hours is just phenomenal. Mr. Feenan, as he said, he probably has been on that river more than any one of us in this room. But it's not just the regattas and the rowing. You think about the amount of visitors that use this river all year long. And something like this, I just don't understand how somebody could do it without thinking of the consequences. So I appreciate Mr. Lovejoy's, remarks, his expression that, he's sorry that this had happened, his willingness to work with the rowing community to make amends on the cost of, the material. But I have to tell you, the amount of hours that it takes to install a course like this is phenomenal, is absolutely phenomenal. And we just can't have this taking place from anybody along the river. I mean, we work very, very closely with the folks at the boathouse. And I have a family member who, we're lucky that the environmental police made the complaint as opposed to, somebody going knocking on the door, because people were very upset about this. So thank you for addressing it. I really, really appreciate it. And I have to thank, the rowing community for stepping forward, because they do understand the economic impact that this brings to the river. And I have to also mention a lot of the high school kids. We partner with Lowell High School as well and the university to use that river and to use that course. And there's hundreds of people, thousands of people that come up and they use it. So, we're done with that season until the fall. So again, thank you for coming. Thank you for, sharing your expression of sorrow, because it could have really hurt somebody. So I just really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Lovejoy, any comments with respect?
Other than to say thank you for taking the time to come, and I understand exactly what you're saying.
All right, I understand that, Judy, that we're going to be receiving a filing with respect to the restoration of the bank? Okay. I suppose what I would like to do at this time, if there's no more, are there any more comments?
My name is Linda Harvey. I was wondering if the trees have passed through the river, or are they going to be an impediment to the Asian Water Festival as well, which is usually held in August, I believe?
I don't know where they are now. I trust that they've probably already collected at the gatehouse and have probably gone, or have gone over the dam.
Hung up on the flashboards.
Okay, there's a tree there now, yeah. Yeah, the water festival doesn't get down that far, and I'm sure NL will be dealing with that, when they do their flashboard replacement ritual twice a year. So, that'll have to be removed at some point in time.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure they weren't a danger. Are they a danger to people using the river now? I mean, I wouldn't want to be out there on a jet ski seeing a tree. Yeah,
well, that was my, the comment is, I mean, the last thing you want to see is someone on a higher speed powerboat hitting an object like that at speed, and again, during the festival times when, especially the Asian Water Festival, where they cover the water with, smaller items and, are rowing amongst those items, and, it kind of obscures your view of, of what's underwater.
Below the surface,
so, yeah.
That's my comment.
All right, thank you.
I have a question. Has this ever happened before?
Trees coming down the river?
Just ever?
Cutting, or trees coming down the river?
Has this ever happened before?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, and what do you?
Trees and more.
So trees come down, but they generally, what ends up happening is that it's usually in the spring. That's why we delay the actual, installation of this course until the beginning of May when the flashboard repairs happened and so forth. And then what happens is it's kind of, the reason why I use the word purging is because if it happens again, like we did the Wednesday, Thursday, we got rain, it takes about a day for the level. You don't get the debris. You get debris, but it's just small stuff. It's not any larger debris. And if you do, we deal with it. But to be honest with you, I have not seen very large trees come down the river.
In all your years?
In all the years in June, that's for sure. The end of June, no.
Well, I guess when I say, has this ever happened before, more like, has anyone cut down trees and how did we handle it? Just to stay consistent. Did we issue fines or?
Yeah, no, well, what happened was a prior owner to this property actually was issued some substantial fines several years ago for doing something very similar, so.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with this particular issue, but it just as a for example. And I know that the DEP generally will not take action if we do,
Yeah.
depending on what that action is. But if they don't feel that what we've done is sufficient or what the owners have done are sufficient to rectify, then they step in and they can potentially issue up to $25,000 in criminal and/or civil penalties, so.
Okay, so fines were issued from this board because we weren't getting cooperation?
Right.
Okay. And then, do we have anything in place for Chelmsford and Tingsboro? Like, can trees legit come from down there? Do we
Yeah,
have
I'd-
any? But we just have no jurisdiction over that. So you
Yeah,
just hope
I-
that it all comes in the spring, you purge, and then pray for the fall? Okay. That's a river. Yeah, okay.
All right. Okay, so we're anticipating a filing, and I suppose that our office will work with the Lovejoys to facilitate that and get that in. And Dr. Lovejoy, thank you for speaking. Thank you for taking responsibility.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry it occurred. I'm sorry.
Be in touch with Ms. Tynan and Ms. Joseph from our office, and they can, walk you through the process, but ultimately the responsibility is yours to make sure your filings are proper and whatnot. And I certainly,
I might just say,
while this commission can't order it, I would trust that you would work with the Lowell Rowing Association to make good on the issues that were raised tonight.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. And I might say, since this all came up, I've been in contact with Ms. Joseph by email literally daily, and she's helped me tremendously in terms of, one, getting the contracting firm that is going to plant the trees, and I've already begun filling in the notice of intent, and we will definitely proceed on these other issues that you've brought up and make things right there.
And just as a final note, there's a dock on your son's or on your property, and I'm, anticipating perhaps that, you purchased a riverfront home, and you will be a future, user of that terrific resource in the city. I don't know if you're originally from the Concord area, but
I am.
Okay, so you're aware of the, the beauty and splendor of the Merrimack River, and so I trust going forward that, this won't happen again.
Right. I believe, hope and believe deeply that my son has learned an important.
All right, good. All right, any further comments? We don't need to continue this because we're awaiting a filing, but it's an open, we do need to ratify the modification to the enforcement order, so.
Modification?
Yeah, we had issued and had ratified an enforcement order. Then I had, based on new information that we received from the DEP Environmental Police, I signed an amended enforcement order that's before us today. That's all. So that needs to be ratified.
I'd move to ratify the amended enforcement order.
Motion by Commissioner Varnum.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Beardron. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right. Okay, thank you, folks, for coming in. And this will, obviously, we're anticipating a filing. The date was for today. or it was for last week, I believe, the 16th. So I'll entertain a motion then that the filing, we should anticipate a filing on or before, and, you know, I'm reluctant to say August 13th, but let's put it on for August 13th, and then we can potentially extend it if we need that. So do I have a motion to continue it? The enforcement action insofar as the landowner shall have till August 13th to make their filing for that, or their filing for that meeting, so it'd have to be the week before that. So that would be August 6th.
So moved.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Commissioner Beardrum, motion by Commissioner Varnum. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, the ayes have it. All right, thank you. We don't have any minutes, but we do have other business. And I don't know who's here. Well, since it's on top, I'm going to take the National Park Service first, because I note that there's people here from the National Park Service, so.
Judy.
Hello, my name is Joseph Sheehan from Fisher Contracting in Worcester, Mass. And we are gearing up to do some work on the Merrimack River. I spoke with Miss Joseph, and she told me you were meeting tonight. So I didn't want to be in the same place he was in and say I didn't know something. So basically, I heard you were meeting, thought, as a matter of course, we like to reach out to the local departments within a city and just let you know we have an order of conditions. We're wanted to introduce ourselves, let you know we're going to be on 3 sites on the river, and that I'll leave my card if anybody would like to ask any questions. And we think you have a beautiful river, and we don't want to do anything to disrupt. And that's basically why we're here, just to introduce ourselves.
Okay, so you're, Mr. Sheehan, you're the contractor has been awarded the contracts for the National Park Service?
We're actually still in the process of, we're responding to an RFP at the time, and
Okay.
Acting really in the capacity of a construction manager. We're experienced working on the water, and we're going to bring in a team of people who are experienced in working on the water. And just wanted to introduce ourselves and assure you that we're going to take great care with your great river.
Okay, great. That's a novel approach to this, because we generally don't hear from the bidders on the RFP process.
I've been at this 30 years, and what happens is it's just worked better when you meet people up front.
All right,
And
terrific.
we're hoping that to hit the ground running quickly. And I knew you were meeting, and so I didn't want somebody to meet somebody when they were maybe under conditions that weren't ideal.
All right, I appreciate that. All right, is there any questions? Okay. All
So
right.
you have my,
We have your information.
Okay.
And just stay in touch with Ms. Joseph from our office and Ms. Timon, so,
okay,
okay, thank you.
thanks very much.
I just wanted to reiterate, Chuck Parrott from the National Park Service, and Ms. Sheehan's firm is actually not a bidder, but a proposer. He's been pre-selected as to propose a price for us. So he very likely will be the contractor. It's a little bit different than a bidding situation. But yes, of course, the orders of conditions, which we got last year from you folks, were made attached to the contract, are part of it. And we are in the process of dealing with the DEP waterways permit application as a part of the contract. It's actually, that burden has been put on the contractor and their engineers to get the waterways permit and to go through that process. So we're just beginning that process now. I don't know what the process is with regard to your communications with DEP, but I presume that you you hear from them regarding the Chapter 91 application process, and we'll be involved.
Yeah, just as anything, if there's any significant changes or any changes or modifications to the plans
Yeah,
or
and
to
there-
the
and there could be,
projects.
at this point, there have not been, but
That
when we
you,
get into the
you know, that you
construction,
just
that's
let
right.
us know what those are, and we make the determination as to whether it's a refiling or
Right,
just an
indeed,
acceptance.
Indeed, that's exactly
Right.
what we've talked to them
Right.
about. Okay, great,
Okay,
thank you very much.
thank you. Lastly, under other business, we have a letter from David Daly, Daily General Contracting, dated July 21, 2014. This is the Hadley Street project, which we approved, I believe, last meeting, to remove 2 ponderosa pine trees that are on the property. The pictures don't do them justice. I went out there today. I don't know if anyone else took a look at them, but the trees look a heck of a lot worse than the pictures show them out to be. So one of them is, the one on the left is dead standing completely. The one on the right has a little bit of life left to it, but is in basically the same boat as the one on the left. So I don't really have an issue with those trees coming down. I don't know if we want to request an additional planting on the site, because those were to remain, but, I'm sure Mr. Daly, I don't want to speak for him, but I'm sure he'd be amenable to that. He'd probably do it anyway, because he does generally some pretty high-quality work, so. So I don't know if there's any, he's asking us to take them down because it wasn't on the plan. I don't have an issue with it. I think, to be honest with you, I think they should come down, but, it really didn't take an arborist to see that those trees were in tough shape, so, all right. Any further comments? Yeah, so, all right. Do we have a motion to accept this for the filing and to allow the applicant to remove the trees?
I'll make a motion to accept this for the file.
I'll second it.
All right, and to remove the trees?
Oh, yeah, and to
Okay,
remove the
all right.
trees.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it.
And appreciate that he's giving us an update that sill fence is installed and whatnot, so.
Say that again?
He's just giving us also an update in here that what's been installed. So,
Yeah,
appreciate that as well.
okay. Yeah, I noticed that when I was out there. All right. We have no minutes. Anything else? Judy? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Offer a motion to adjourn?
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. We have the enforcement order to sign, and that's it. So.